With Donald Trump the overwhelming favorite to become the next Republican nominee for president, there's one question that's on everyone's mind.
If you are the nominee, which I know you expect to be, who would be in the running for vice president?
While many names have been thrown around as possibilities, if Trump wants to truly advance the America First agenda, there's really only one option.
The real choice we face in this primary is this. Do you want a super PAC puppet, or do you want a patriot who speaks the truth? Do you want incremental reform, which is what you're hearing about, or do you want revolution?
Okay.
And I stand on the side of the American Revolution.
Now, undoubtedly, Trump's advisors are trying to steer him in a different direction. Their calculus will be a purely political one, picking the standard non-threatening running mate that will play the game and do as he or she is told. But we need to keep in mind that November 2024 is not the final destination. It is just the starting line. And our republic is currently in a dire, all-hands-on-deck situation.
The U.S. government's debt has topped $34 trillion for the first time ever.
Overseas, a new attack on a U.S. military base in Iraq, and one of the biggest in the region, is raising concerns about a wider conflict in the Middle East.
Across the board, Americans are paying more for everything, including housing, groceries, and gas.
We're back now with a record number of migrants crossing into the U.S., pushing resources to the limit in many American cities.
These extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures, and Trump can't take everything on himself. He will need allies aligned with him on policy that have demonstrated the highest levels of competence, which rules out most politicians. Winning a slim electoral victory will be virtually meaningless if Trump can't effect real change while in office, something that will be very difficult to do without widespread support. The reality is that half this country despises the orange man. Trump will need political capital to push through major reform, and that will require getting the general public at large to buy into the America First agenda. But this isn't something that Trump can do alone, because a large swath of the population views him as a racist, Christian, white nationalist.
All the things that we think about electability, about, what are people gaming out, or none of that matters when you believe that God has given you this country, that it is yours, and that everyone who is not a white conservative Christian is a fraudulent American.
What better way to shatter this delusion than to have a brown Hindu, who is one of the most gifted orators we've ever seen, convey the America First vision in the most eloquent and convincing manner possible.
In my view, the only cure for Trump is Vivek. He's the only cure for TDS, because he can give it to you the way that won't make you flip out when you hear it. Vivek showed you that it is actually possible to talk to people with wildly different viewpoints. And as small as that sounds, it's everything. It's everything. It's the part that was missing. And it's because the news has made it almost impossible to just tell the truth and get away with it. Vivek has found a way to tell the Republican narrative without the need for any lies, because there was never a need for any lies. It was never necessary. He was just the one smart enough to figure out it wasn't necessary to lie.
Now, some have argued that although they agree Vivek should have some role in Trump's administration, it should be in a different capacity, perhaps Attorney General or Chief of Staff. But here's the thing. Every cabinet position other than the Vice President has defined day-to-day duties and responsibilities. There's no doubt that Vivek could excel in any of these roles, but they would not be the best use of his talents. He's not an administrator, or a bureaucrat, or a bean counter. He's an executive, a problem solver, and an innovator. Yes, it is true that traditionally the VP has been nothing more than a useless figurehead.
Okay. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Okay, I can first.
But ironically, that is precisely why this position is perfect for Vivek. The fact that the VP doesn't have a set job and isn't bogged down by daily obligations means that the role can be flexibly repurposed to take on whatever is the most pressing pending challenge at any given time. Everyone within the executive branch operates under the delegated authority of the unitary executive, and the scope of that delegation can be curtailed or expanded however the president sees fit. And let's be honest, Trump hasn't had a great track record when it comes to delegation. It's one of the main reasons he failed to achieve much of his agenda during his first term. The swamp wasn't in fact drained, our debt didn't go down, it went up, and the border was not secured. But with Vivek as his right hand, Trump can be rest assured that if he needs any critical mission accomplished, all he needs to do is unleash Vivek. He's done more homework, aided by his legal background, than anyone else on the granular details of how to practically tackle the crucial problems facing America today.
This is not a suggestion to the U.S. president from Congress. This is a mandate to the U.S. president from Congress to exercise the authority to reorganize and shut down, statute's words, abolish such agencies if it promotes the economy, or in the alternative, if it eliminates redundant federal agencies.
Now, if sheer competence was the only deciding factor, Vivek would be the obvious choice. However, with Trump, there's always the question of loyalty, and Vivek is not the type that will bow down to anyone. But for this critical role at this critical juncture, more important than loyalty is trust. And the types of people you can trust aren't the ones that will kiss the ring and whisper sweet nothings in your ear. These sorts that readily bend their will to a master are actually the ones that can't be trusted, because it means they will eventually bend their will to a new master when it becomes professionally or personally expedient to do so. The type of person that you can really trust is one who is principled to their core, someone that holds steadfast to their beliefs regardless of which ways the prevailing winds are blowing. And if there's one thing that Vivek has shown throughout his life, it is that he is a person that lives and dies by his convictions. From a 20-year-old that argued against raising the minimum wage in Deep Blue Cambridge, to stepping down from the company he founded and leaving tens of millions of dollars on the table because he refused to pledge allegiance to the BLM flag, to spending upwards of $30 million of his family's money on his campaign so he couldn't be controlled by super PACs, to telling a group of wealthy Jewish donors that he was America first and didn't support U.S. involvement in the Gazan conflict amidst a chorus of boos.
George Washington, he reminded us that our job here is to be strong at home, to mind our own affairs, to avoid foreign military entanglements that do not relate directly to our homeland here in the United States of America. It's okay, I'm sharing my honest view, and we have to have open debate to find the path forward. I am a George Washington, America First conservative.
People have sworn their loyalty to Trump before, but talk is cheap. You should judge a person not by his words, but by his actions. And Vivek was the only candidate that constantly had Trump's back.
I will voluntarily, as a Republican candidate, remove myself from any GOP primary ballot where one of my competitors, Donald Trump included, is forcibly removed through this unconstitutional maneuver. I am submitting an amicus brief to the Supreme Court, arguing for why they need to overturn Colorado's disastrous decision to try to keep Donald Trump off the ballot, because it's the right thing to do for this country.
So although Trump shouldn't expect Vivek to pledge loyalty to him, he can trust in the fact that Vivek will always remain deeply loyal to his principles, to the truth, and to the country. This is the type of person you want in a foxhole with you, not the slippery snake that tells you what you want to hear, but then turns tail and runs at the first sign of trouble. And there is no doubt that if Trump wins the election, there will be trouble. He will face an onslaught of attacks from the media and the deep state, as he did during his first term. And after the so-called insurrection on January 6th and the dozens of federal and state indictments, Trump will face an even fiercer battle this time around. He will need dependable, capable soldiers to stand by his side, and there's no one on this planet who is hungrier and better prepared to fight this war.
Shut them down.